Disclaimer: it's inspired by reality, shaped by imagination.
What happened today on the Kelly Clarkson Show shocked everyone in the studio and every viewer watching at home. Valerie Bertinelli, normally warm, calm, and steady, ended up in one of the most heated, emotionally charged debates daytime TV has seen this year. And the topic? Something that sounded simple on the surface, but cut right into questions of safety, privacy, trust, and public power. Should local police use body cameras that live stream to the public? Kelly introduced the segment expecting a thoughtful, balanced conversation. What she didn't expect was Valerie's fierce conviction and how quickly things would spiral once their views collided. It started with gentle disagreement, a raised eyebrow here, a tense smile there. But the moment Kelly challenged whether Valerie was being too idealistic, the entire energy changed. Valerie leaned forward, her voice shaking with controlled emotion, and the audience fell dead silent. A single sentence from Kelly lit the fuse. A single comeback from Valerie set off the firestorm. Voices sharpened, the crowd reacted in waves, gasps, applause, nervous laughter. Producers scrambled behind the cameras as the argument pushed past the point of no return. And then, Valerie did the unthinkable. She stood up. She pulled off her mic. She walked off the stage, live, mid-show, leaving Kelly stunned and the audience frozen in disbelief.
The show started on a light, cheerful note, the kind of morning energy Kelly Clarkson had mastered. The audience clapped along with the upbeat music as Kelly stepped onto the stage wearing soft denim and a bright smile. Her warm presence always made the studio feel smaller, more intimate, like everyone was sitting in a living room instead of under stage lights. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the incredible Valerie Bertinelli," Kelly announced. Valerie walked out to loud applause, waving with both hands, her smile soft but genuine. She wore a simple black blouse and wide-leg trousers, her hair loose around her shoulders. The two women hugged, and for a moment the air felt friendly, even nostalgic. "It's so good to see you," Kelly said as they sat down on the cozy chairs in the center of the stage. "You too," Valerie replied with a warm laugh. "I feel like every time I'm here you've upgraded the place." Kelly grinned. "I wish we just moved the plants around. Studio magic." The audience laughed. Valerie tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "Well, it works. It's lovely." Kelly held up a recent cookbook Valerie had released. "Let's talk about this beauty. Your recipes always make me hungry before noon." Valerie laughed as the crowd clapped. "That's the point. Happiness is a warm kitchen." Kelly nodded. "You had such a big year. New book, new projects. You look great. How you feeling?" Valerie hesitated for a heartbeat, then smiled. "Honestly, peaceful. I've worked hard to get to a place where I'm enjoying my days. Cooking, writing, spending time with people I love. I'm grateful." Kelly's face softened. "You deserve all of it." The camera zoomed in as they shared a comfortable silence. The audience awed softly. Kelly raised a brow. "I saw your Instagram post yesterday, that giant bowl of pasta. I zoomed in to see if it was rigatoni." Valerie laughed. "It was. You have a good eye." "I take pasta seriously," Kelly joked. "That's my talent." They spoke about family next, Valerie mentioning her son, Kelly joking about her kid's obsession with slime and how it stuck to her carpet. They laughed until tears formed in their eyes. Everything felt warm, easy, familiar. Kelly sipped her tea and leaned in. "So, before we get into our big topic today, tell me something fun. What's one thing you did this week that made you happy?" Valerie thought for a second. "I had a quiet morning baking bread. No cameras, no deadlines, just me and the dough." "That sounds heavenly," Kelly said. "It was. And the smell, oh, that's therapy." The audience chuckled. Kelly placed her mug down gently. That's what I love about you. You always bring this calm, grounded energy. You remind people to slow down, breathe, appreciate things." Valerie smiled. "Well, life's noisy. We all need pockets of quiet." Kelly nodded. "Amen." It was all still friendly, no tension in sight. Just two women talking about food, kids, life, and joy. The cameras swept lovingly across the stage, catching soft smiles and relaxed body language. No one, not the audience, not the producers, not even Kelly, knew what was about to happen. Because once they shifted into the day's debate topic, the temperature in the room would drop fast, and the calm, cozy morning vibe would vanish in seconds.
The moment the show returned from commercial, the tone shifted. The lights felt just a little brighter, the smiles a little tighter. Kelly crossed one leg over the other, cue cards in hand, while Valerie settled back in her seat, still relaxed but unaware of the storm coming. Kelly exhaled softly. "All right, Valerie, let's get into our main topic today. It's a big one, and I know we both have strong feelings." She looked up at the camera. "Should local police use body cameras that live stream to the public?" A few murmurs rippled through the audience. Valerie nodded slowly. "I've thought about this a lot, and personally, I support the idea. I think live streaming could bring transparency and rebuild trust that's been broken for years." Kelly raised her brows. "Live streaming? As in everything? In real time?" "Yes," Valerie said, voice steady. "People deserve to know what's happening. Too many situations get distorted or hidden. When communities feel in the dark, fear grows. Cameras could help close that gap." Kelly tilted her head. "But wouldn't that create more chaos? I mean, imagine a crisis situation. Do you really want the entire internet watching it play out like a reality show?" A few people in the audience hummed in agreement. Valerie leaned forward, clasping her hands. "Kelly, that's the point. We've treated law enforcement like something that should operate behind closed doors. But when you give people visibility, even if it's uncomfortable, it forces accountability." Kelly let out a breathy laugh, not rude, but tense. "I get accountability. I'm all for accountability. But live streaming? That's dangerous. Officers make split-second decisions. One wrong angle or partial clip could end up ruining someone's career or worse." Valerie stiffened slightly. "Kelly, people have died in those split-second moments. Families deserve clarity, not edited footage months later." The room reacted. Sharp inhale, scattered applause, a few uncomfortable whispers. Kelly sat back, eyes narrowing just a bit. "I'm not disagreeing that there's a problem, but you're suggesting a system that could put officers, victims, even bystanders at risk. What about their privacy, their safety?" Valerie's voice tightened. "What about the privacy and safety of people who get hurt or mistreated with no footage at all?" Kelly opened her hands. "But live streaming turns everything into a public spectacle. You'd have millions of people trying to play detective from their couch. That's not justice, Valerie. That's chaos." "Chaos?" Valerie repeated, her tone sharpening. "Kelly, many communities have already been living in chaos. People are scared. People don't trust the system. This could help heal that." Kelly leaned forward, too, mirroring Valerie's posture without even realizing it. "Heal? Or inflame? You've seen how social media reacts to everything. One clip goes viral and the whole world jumps to conclusions without knowing the facts." Valerie's jaw clenched slightly. "And right now, they don't get the facts at all. That's the problem." The audience gasped softly. Kelly held up a hand. "I'm just saying live streaming isn't as simple as transparency. It can ruin investigations, expose minors, escalate dangerous situations, and sweeping things under the rug is better?" Valerie interrupted, voice rising. "I didn't say that. But that's how it sounds. Anytime transparency is suggested, People panic. Yet if nothing is wrong, why fear openness? Kelly shifted in her seat, her expression tightening. Because lives are involved. Trauma is involved. Not everything should be broadcast like a TV show. Valerie shot back. Sometimes the truth needs to be uncomfortable. A ripple surged through the audience, half applause, half shocked murmurs. Kelly inhaled slowly, steadying herself. And sometimes idealism blinds people to reality. Valerie froze. Her shoulders squared. The words hit her harder than Kelly expected. Suddenly, the warmth from earlier was gone. The friendly morning chat had officially turned into a firestorm.
The tension hung thick in the air. Valerie's eyes narrowed, stunned by Kelly's last comment. The audience sensed a shift and fell into a nervous silence. Even the camera operators leaned in slightly, sensing something deeper was unfolding. Kelly softened her voice. "Valerie, I didn't mean that as an insult. I'm just saying, sometimes you look at these issues from a very hopeful place, and the world doesn't always match that." Valerie, normally composed, blinked hard and sat up straighter. "Hopeful place," she repeated quietly. "Kelly, do you know why I support livestream body cams?" Kelly hesitated, unsure where this was going. "I mean, you said accountability, trust, transparency." Valerie shook her head. "No, that's part of it, but not the core. The real reason is personal." She glanced down at her hands, clasped tightly in her lap. "I don't talk about this often." The room went still. Kelly leaned in, concern flickering across her face. "You don't have to share anything I want to," Valerie cut in softly. She took a slow breath. "A few years ago," Valerie began, her voice trembling, "someone I love, someone close to me, was pulled over late at night. It was supposed to be a routine stop, nothing dramatic. But something about the interaction spiraled. I don't know what. I wasn't there." I swallowed hard. There was no footage, no audio, no record. And by the time we learned what happened, it was too late. Kelly's expression shifted. Her posture relaxed, her concern finally overtaking her frustration. Valerie continued, her hands shaking slightly. "We got two stories. The officers had theirs, and my family member. He wasn't around to give his—" Her voice caught. The audience reacted with a soft, collective gasp, as if every person in the room was holding their breath. "For months," Valerie said slowly, "we lived in confusion, pain, anger. There was no clarity, no evidence, just questions and grief. If there had been a camera, any camera, my family would have had answers, maybe closure, maybe even justice." She paused, wiping quickly at the corner of her eye. "And that's why I believe in full transparency. The truth shouldn't be optional." The studio fell into heavy silence. Even Kelly looked shaken, her earlier arguments melting away in the face of Valerie's raw honesty. "Valerie," Kelly whispered, "I had no idea." "How could you?" Valerie said quietly. "I never said anything. I didn't want to bring my pain into the public. But when you called me idealistic, like I was being naive, it hurt, because this isn't idealism. This is lived experience." A few audience members stood, offering light applause, not loud or rowdy, but supportive and emotional. Valerie breathed in shakily, gathering her composure as the crowd showed their empathy. Kelly reached out, resting a gentle hand over Valerie's. "I'm sorry, truly. I didn't try to undermine your experience. I didn't know you were carrying that." Valerie nodded, her voice low. I want people to have what we didn't. Proof, answers, A way to know the truth without relying on conflicting stories. Kelly nodded slowly. I understand, and I get why you feel so strongly, but I still worry about how live streaming affects officers, victims, families. Then let's talk about it, Valerie said softly, wiping her eyes. But don't call my grief idealism. The audience reacted with a soft, mm-hmm, and a few claps. Kelly swallowed, visibly moved, but something in her expression shifted, not toward empathy, but toward defensiveness. As Valerie's emotional truth settled in the air, Kelly felt the pressure of having to respond on live television, the weight of the studio, the eyes of millions online, the responsibility of protecting her own stance. And that's when the emotional moment, meant to soften the tension, slowly kindled a new spark. Kelly straightened. Valerie, I respect your experience more than you know, but personal trauma can't set national policy. We have to look at the bigger picture. The audience gasped. A few people whispered, "Oh no," while others shook their heads. Valerie's expression changed instantly, hurt turning into shock, shock quickly hardening into anger. Whatever emotional moment that had brought was gone. The emotional flashpoint had done its job. It cracked them open, but also pushed them apart. And now the debate was about to become something far more volatile.
Everything boiled over the moment Kelly shifted in her seat, folded her arms, and said, Valerie, you're talking like the public should get to monitor the police the way they watch reality TV. That's not safety, that's chaos. The studio tightened. Even the band at the side of the stage seemed to shrink back. Valerie didn't flinch. I'm talking about transparency. People are tired of finding out what happened after the fact. Live streaming means there's no chance to hide anything. It protects civilians and good officers. Kelly shook her head. Or it endangers them. Imagine an officer responding to a domestic dispute, and the whole town watches it unfold. Kids might recognize the house. Neighbors see who's involved. That's not public safety. That's humiliation. Valerie opened her hands in disbelief. Do you know what humiliation is? Getting pulled over and treated like your fear doesn't matter. People record interactions already. Live streams don't invent problems, they expose them. Kelly pressed back with a sharper tone than she had used all episode. But your solution goes too far. You're asking officers to work with the entire world watching every second, even when the situations are volatile or private. They need room to do their job without worrying about how they look on the internet. Valerie leaned forward. Kelly, accountability shouldn't depend on whether someone with a cell phone happens to be nearby. Live streaming built into body cams means there's no manipulation, no missing footage, no waiting for statements. The truth is shown in real time. Kelly looked frustrated now, almost offended. But what about victims? What about people in crisis? Suppose someone calls for help during a mental health emergency. Why should that moment be broadcast to strangers? Valerie's voice softened but stayed firm. Then set parameters. Faces blurred, audio delayed. But you don't throw out transparency because it's complicated. Kelly paused long enough for the silence to sting. See, this is where you lose me. You speak like the risks don't matter, like the system you're suggesting can be perfectly controlled. It can't. You talk about police mistakes, but what about public mistakes? What about misinformation spreading instantly because a live stream lacks context? Valerie's expression tightened. Misinformation spreads because people don't trust institutions that operate behind closed doors. The temperature between them rose so sharply the audience stopped reacting at all. They just watched, bracing for whatever came next. Kelly sat back and said with a hollow laugh, "You're not hearing me." Valerie responded with a level of quiet that made the moment even sharper. "No, Kelly, I'm hearing you. You're scared of what transparency looks like when it's no longer managed by the people in power." Kelly's jaw clenched. She hadn't expected that. The audience murmured. A producer stepped closer to the stage. Kelly responded, voice lower, words more controlled. "I'm not scared. I'm realistic. You want cameras that broadcast every decision. Fine. But don't pretend that won't turn police work into a public spectacle." Valerie's eyes narrowed. If the truth is a spectacle, that's not on the public. That's on the system. Kelly blinked, stunned by how far Valerie had gone. And then Valerie stood. Not a dramatic stand, not a televised tantrum, just a clear choice to remove herself from the corner she felt pushed into. "I'm not doing this with you," she said plainly. Kelly's face fell. "Valerie!" But Valerie was already stepping back from the couch, microphone still clipped, voice steady enough to carry across the room. "When you're ready to talk about accountability without treating it like a threat, you can call me." Then she headed toward the side stage door as the audience gasped. Kelly sat frozen, hands clasped, caught in the silence she never saw coming. And Valerie Bertinelli walked off the Kelly Clarkson Show, live on air.
The studio stayed quiet long after Valerie disappeared behind the curtain. Kelly kept her hands folded, staring at the spot where her guest had stood, almost as if she was trying to rewind the moment in her mind. The audience didn't clap, didn't whisper, didn't breathe too loudly. They were waiting to see how she'd recover, but even Kelly seemed unsure. She finally exhaled and looked into the camera. "I didn't expect that," she said with a small, uneasy smile. It wasn't defensive. It wasn't rehearsed. It was the sound of someone trying to steady herself after an argument that spiraled faster than she could manage. The producers signaled her to move on, but she held up her hand. She wasn't ready. Conversations about policing and privacy get emotional. People have lived through things I haven't, and Valerie has every right to feel strongly about it. It was the closest she could come to acknowledging the tension without reopening the wound. Behind the scenes, Valerie sat in a hallway chair, breathing hard but not crying, not shaken, just trying to come down from the emotional climb. The crew members nearby didn't ask questions. They just gave her space, unsure whether to comfort her or give her quiet. She appreciated both. Back on stage, Kelly tried to steer the show forward. Her voice steadied, but her eyes gave away the weight of what had just happened. "We bring guests here because we want honest conversations," she told the viewers. "Sometimes they're harder than we expect." The band played something soft, almost like an apology wrapped in sound. The studio stayed quiet long after Valerie disappeared behind the curtain. Kelly kept her hands folded, staring at the spot where her guest had stood, almost as if she was trying to rewind the moment in her mind. The audience didn't clap, didn't whisper, didn't breathe too loudly. They were waiting to see how she'd recover, but even Kelly seemed unsure. She finally exhaled and looked into the camera. "I didn't expect that," she said with a small, uneasy smile. It wasn't defensive, it wasn't rehearsed. It was the sound of someone trying to steady herself after an argument that spiraled faster than she could manage. The producers signaled her to move on, but she held up her hand. She wasn't ready. "Conversations about policing and privacy get emotional," she said, voice softer than before. "People have lived through things I haven't, and Valerie has every right to feel strongly about it." It was the closest she could come to acknowledging the tension without reopening the wound. Behind the scenes, Valerie sat in a hallway chair, breathing hard but not crying, not shaken, just trying to come down from the emotional climb. She knew she hadn't planned to walk off. It wasn't a stunt. It wasn't some grand gesture. It was what happens when a conversation hits a wall and the only option left is distance. The crew members nearby didn't ask questions. They just gave her space, unsure whether to comfort her or give her quiet. She appreciated both. Back on stage, Kelly tried to steer the show forward. Her voice steadied, but her eyes gave away the weight of what had just happened. "We bring guests here because we want honest conversations," she told the viewers. "Sometimes they're harder than we expect." The band played something soft, almost like an apology wrapped in sound. Across social media, clips of the moment were already spreading. Some praised Valerie for standing firm. Others sided with Kelly, saying she stayed calm under pressure. The debate spread faster than either of them could respond, proving that the topic they clashed over was bigger than both of them. But inside the studio, there were no hashtags, no quick judgments, no instant sides. Just two women who cared about the issue in different ways and collided harder than anyone predicted. As the show went to commercial, Kelly let out one last breath, her shoulders dropping. Out in the hallway, Valerie stood, smoothed her jacket, and walked toward the exit with calm steps. She wasn't angry anymore, just resolved. Some conversations leave a mark. This one did for both of them. And whether viewers agreed with Kelly or Valerie, everyone watching understood one thing clearly. Nothing gets people talking like a debate that hits close to home.